My name is Jackson, aka the Big Unit. Some of you know me as the guitar repair guy. Some of you know me as the lead singer, guitarist, and songwriter for the heavy metal band Shatterbone. Some of you know me as an electrical educator. Some of you know me as the guy with the crazy guitar collection. Some of you know me as a die-hard Raiders fan. For years, I have been playing, collecting, and working on guitars and spending all my free time doing stuff with guitars. But now, I'm building guitars. All right, so I just finished making a template for the headstock, my headstock design. So I did have a tiny little bit of chip out on the back side of that, but that's just a center pin hole. So anyway, my brother said that he wanted to have my headstock shape on his guitar, so that then means I need to put this on here. You know what I didn't do? I didn't put a center mark on the bottom. So why don't we do that quick? Okay. Center line's easy up top because I split it perfectly right on that hump there when I did the headstock the first time. So
that was
okay.
Smart.
First, let's take off the chunk that is going to be going away anyway. Plexiglass dust everywhere. Just for shits and giggles. That way I know where my tape's got to be. Yeah, we're going to have to load up in the router table. I'm going to feel a lot safer about it on the router table than freehanding it with the router. So,
a few minutes later.
okay. Time to route the shape of the headstock. Vacuum, please. All right. So
Before you unstick that, should you drill your holes?
I could put the pilot holes in, yeah. Might as well. Or at least put the marks that tell me where they're going to be.
That would help.
And for those tuning peg holes, I thought it made the most sense to just put a small center pin hole. That way, if it's, you know, some brands 10 millimeter, some brands 12 millimeter, whatever. If I just put a center pin hole, then it doesn't really matter. I just drill it out to whatever size it needs to be. So all right. And like I said, as for the transition to the neck, I'm not going to use the headstock template for that, just because this template, the nut width is a little bit wider. I got these palette knives here. I got a set of 5 of them off of Amazon. And they weren't that expensive. But I tell you what, they're a hell of a lot more durable than like the little painting palette knives you get from like Michael's or Hobby Lobby or something like that. They're still rather flexible metal, but they've got rivets shot through them. They've got half tang goes down into the handle. I will see if I can find it back in my Amazon orders, and I'll tag it in the description below if anybody's interested in going and getting some, because I don't know, I use them fairly frequently, and like I said, that first set I had, I snapped 2 of them in one afternoon, so I needed one that was a little bit sturdier than that. Okay, so now I think it's time to glue the fretboard on. Yeah, let's put the truss rod back in first. That's a good idea. Thank you, Mrs. Unit.
You're welcome.
I don't know if I need my glue gun or not. Yeah, maybe. Dang it. I think the tip might have a little more glue in it than I thought it did. It's a little boogery. Alright, now. Good God!
There's a fly that wants to be your friend.
Can you unscrew the lid on that glue bottle?
Sure.
I definitely went crazier than I thought I needed to. Okay. Alright. I have my fretboard gluing up. I had to do some existential thinking and things like that. Basically, since my trim is offset, the springs, the springs need to be right in line here. The only purpose for this extra overhang here is for the trim arm nut, essentially. So this right here is the only part that needs to get plowed away for the spring claw to be mounted. So I custom built myself a template here that will allow me to just do this part and not the whole thing as wide as that. Well, that's what I was afraid of, but thankfully the pickups are going on pickup rings, so I don't have to sweat that too much. But yeah, I am super thin right there where the backside of the pickups is going to be.
Positive note?
Huh?
Do you want a positive note?
You
didn't go all the way through.
Well, I did, but not the whole pickup cavity, just where the tips of the Forstner bits were.
But that's still. That whole thing could have been out.
Right. Which also probably wouldn't have been the world's biggest disaster, since it's going to have a pick guard and it's going to have pickup rings, and pickup rings are going to be mounted to the surface of the guitar and stuff like that. So I mean, the only thing that would really be an issue is it'd look a little wonky from the backside. But I don't even think I got to worry about it, because there's a couple of little holes there that'll be behind the springs. And if somebody wants to scrutinize my shit that much on my third build, then I guess if they have nothing better to do with their time, whatever.
Well, if you wanted to, you can fill that in with sawdust after you get the...
Yeah, I don't even think that there's not enough meat there to... I mean, there's literally 2 millimeters of wood here on the underside of the pickup. The only thing I could maybe do, if I was really worried about it, is cut a piece of veneer that I could lay in there. But I'm not that worried about it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Nobody's gonna see it, except for my brother. And he probably won't even see it, because he usually brings his guitars over to me for setup and work and shit like that. So, I mean, I'll probably be the only one who ever sees Homer Simpson. Anyway.
If you do that again, I didn't see it.
But now that I have that in place, if I put my trim in like it's supposed to be, that's centered with where the claw is going to be. It is very shallow, so it's, I mean, I don't have the studs in, I don't have the mounting anchors in, I don't have it set up yet, so when it's all done, it's probably not going to be poking out the back, but it's still, if he's doing any, like, you know, major dime bag backward trim bends, he might feel it poke him in the belly every now and then. Or poke him somewhere else if he plays his guitar lower, but hopefully not. Alright, now I still need to bevel the edges. And then I'll have to get the neck pocket figured out once I got the neck ready to go. I started it, but then I stopped because I was like, I'm not 100% sure how thick the heel is going to be exactly. And I didn't want to get too close to that before I know for sure. Alright, so we are out here early because it is going to get nasty, brutal hot again today. So, I want to try and get some of this knocked out and tackled before that becomes an issue, because I don't want to be out here when it's nasty, brutal hot if I don't have to be. So, I am gonna get some stuff done early so I don't have to be out here when it gets miserable hot. So,
supposed to get up to what, 100 today?
105 or 108 with the heat index, I think they said. So, yeah, the suck is going to be in full swing.
Just glad our air conditioner still works.
Yeah. Alright, so first thing, well, we had to get it fixed last year, so hopefully we don't have a problem again this year.
That's why I knocked on wood.
Okay, so next thing I want to do before I progress further, I want to get the neck first sawed, and then I can put the template on and route the edges to perfection. So then that's to the nut line on this, which would be right there. Because I left this piece here. My thought process, this is glued flat onto the neck. Hey, let's check that, by the way. I haven't. Yeah, that's glued flat onto the neck. So I know a lot of times with like Floyd Rose locking nuts, you have to shim them up a little bit. So you get like little metal shims to shim it up. I might be totally bats here, but my thought is if I leave this ebony here, then I can trim it down, sand it down, chisel it down, whatever, to the right height for the locking nut. So instead of having to shim it up, I'm just going to have an extra ebony shelf that's part of the fretboard to be what shims it up. And I think that'll work. And I think it'll look cleaner than, say, having a, you know, little metal shims in there instead. Now, once again, I don't want to cut to this line. That's really going to be the router's job. And the purpose of this line is just to make sure that I know this is where the edge of the neck needs to be, so on the bandsaw I don't get any closer than that.
How are you gonna do the top part when it curves down from the headstock?
I'm gonna start out sawing it, take the bulk of it away. I'm going to route the sides of the fretboard, and then to do that part I think I'm gonna have to do a little bit of dual operation. So I'll have to tape this on first to kind of start routing that. You know, maybe shove a shim in here to keep that flat so I can run the router there without it falling off. But that is a steeper slope than my actual headstock shape. So I'll start out plowing away some of the material with this, and then I'll switch over to my other template, masking tape, super glue it on, and then finish the route up against that template. Well, that's a little better. Still not great, but at least I can see a little better. I had someone the other day ask me on one of my videos, and I'm not 100% sure who it was, but I had someone ask me how come I don't just use the two-sided tape instead of the masking tape and super glue trick. And I'll be honest, I'm sure two-sided tape would work. But for me personally, I feel that I have a better chance of burnishing it down onto this piece and then onto this piece and then sticking them together than I do if I would put a piece of double-sided tape on here, put this on here, and then try to burnish this piece of wood down to the other sticky side. I just think I get a more durable connection this way. I might be totally off my rocker, and if you have plenty of luck with double-sided tape, you do you. I'm just saying that's why I think it's a little bit safer method of going about it, personally for me. Also, this is how I learned. You know, I saw Ben do this, and so this is what I started with. And so this is what I've stuck with
It
since
works. Why change it?
well, I mean, it's always worth changing if it actually improves what you're doing, but I don't see that it would improve anything by just going to the double-sided tape. The only thing I could see that you could maybe argue would be cost, but I'll be honest with you, this crap right here, I can get 6 rolls for like $12, and for a roll of double-sided tape I can spend like $8 to $12. So, and as much of this as I use, not just for sticking things together, but for marking, for protecting, masking off, etc. To be honest with you, I think that the double-sided tape thing is not going, it's going to be more of a one-trick pony, where this stuff I can get a lot of uses out of it. You know, one of my other things I like to do is cooking, if that's not obvious. One of the other things I like to do is cooking. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of started getting into that from watching TV and stuff like that too. And Alton Brown is one of my favorites. Years ago when he did Good Eats and stuff like that, and one of the things he would always tout was no unitaskers in the kitchen. And I kind of feel that when I'm guitar building too. No unitaskers. You know, if it's only capable of performing one single task in the shop, it better be one seriously important and impressive task. You know, I mean, you think about it. Take the router for example. I use the router for a ton of stuff. Routing around the body, routing around the neck, routing out the cavities. You know, I use this for a lot of stuff. Are there other things that I could maybe get that would do one of these tasks really well? Yeah. But I want something that does all of it really well.
My experience with double-sided tape, it doesn't come off as easily as masking.
That's true too. I've heard Ben say that too, that using double-sided tape, a lot of times it leaves like a gluey residue afterwards, which I also do not want on my guitar, because then I got to sit there with a residue remover and try and get that crap off, and some of those residue removers will stain woods, so then I got to stain from it. It just, I don't know, it just seems like it's a bigger pain in the ass than it's worth. It's more expensive than it needs to be for the job I use it for, when I can make it happen with something cheaper. So anyway, pardon my digression, my off the rail rant, but that's why I don't use double-sided tape, because I'm not that big of a fan of it personally. If you like it, by all means use it to your advantage. PPE, people, wear your PPE. I'm a PPE guy. It's my job.
Personal protective equipment.
Absolutely. Not to be confused with OPP. Okay, that's an old joke. If you're under 35 years old, you probably don't get that. Okay. Oh. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins. Hopefully the ebony doesn't chip this time. Alright, you want to vacuum me? Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of my madness. Click like, subscribe, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.